Hi, everyone. In just a second, I'm going to be introducing author Laura Beers, and this is our second interview, which I am so happy about. She wrote a new book, and it's part of this series, a Saving Shadow series. And the new one is called To Love a Spy. And that's the third one in the series. This one is the first one in the series, so I cannot wait to talk to her about this. I love this. It's historical fiction. She writes such great historical fiction. I cannot wait to talk to her again. And you know what? She's lots of fun too. So everyone, here is Laura. Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I get to speak with author Laura Beers again. This is our second interview. And the first interview, we talked about our first two. This is the first book, Saving Shadow. And then we talked about A Peculiar Courtship. And now she has a brand new book out, To Love a Spy. And they are all in the same series, and I love them. Historical fiction is right up my alley, and this book was so good, Laura. Not this one. This one was good too, but you have the other one. It was To Love a Spy was so good. Oh my God. I'm so happy that you explored Kate and her story.
Yes. Kate needed her own story. As I started writing Kate, I just thought, oh my goodness. At first, when I wrote the first draft, I was just crying all the time because I thought this poor girl has had a horrible, horrible life. And then I thought I need to make it a little more positive, and I did. And I mean, I definitely did a different spin, but she had a lot of problems that came at an early age, that were forced upon her.
Yes, and I don't know, but I was watching our video because I wanted to see what we talked about, and we were talking about Harry and Meghan's engagement.
Yes.
And now they're getting married. Now it's like a couple months later, and the big wedding is very close. And this week, Andrew Norton came out with a book on Meghan, and I haven't read it yet.
Oh, I didn't even know there was one.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Because you know how he had that Diana book? Well, he does all the royals. And he came out with her. And I now want to read it because I feel like before the wedding, right? We got to read her book.
Yeah, I wanted to get my sister a commemorative tea or a teacup or a dish towel. I still might because that would be awesome. But I'm really excited for them. They seem like a cute, cute couple.
I know, I'm not tired of them yet. I thought maybe, all the press I'd get but Kate's about to give birth. This is big. There's big English news going. I mean, she's about to give birth and the wedding and so maybe by the next book we'll know so much more.
Well, it's amazing because first of all, Meghan's American, which we love. And she's biracial, which is another thing we love. But she's a huge humanitarian person. She is constantly serving and helping other people. And I'm really happy for her I hope marrying into the royal family is everything she expected because it seems like she's going to be very busy for the rest of her life.
Yeah, I think so. And then I'm thinking that, do you think she'll get pregnant right away? I think so.
I think so. They're a little older. I mean, not older, but I mean, also in the sense that she really has, her and Harry just seem like they're a good couple, and she's really helped him fight his demons, as he has kind of said. Yeah. So it seems like it's a good match.
Yeah, you know what was really weird? I always watch concerts, and I was watching this old concert on YouTube, and he was with his ex-girlfriend. I don't even remember her name. I have no idea her name.
The blonde one, yes.
You know what I'm talking about. And they were both sitting there watching this concert, and he was leaning away from her, and I was like, see, he didn't like her. I was like, he needed, because you never see him leaning away from Meghan. He was totally just leaning away from her. I was like, yeah, you need to ditch her.
They've already broken so many protocols because they touch in public.
Right.
Weird. They're acting like an engaged couple. He'll actually reach back for her and help her, and they're like, oh, that's against royal protocol. I'm thinking, I don't think Harry cares about royal protocol.
He doesn't care. He's so far down on the line. He's like, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Nobody cares about me. I can do whatever I want,
Yes.
But I was so happy that I watched her because I forgot that we had talked about them, and I was like, oh,
yes.
That's so cute.
I did too.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you some questions though for our audience, historical questions that I was looking up on Wikipedia, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just asking Laura. I'm not even going to pretend I know this stuff because she knows it and I don't. So, but I really don't know that much about what was going on in England during this time. Like I realized that I didn't know a lot what was going on with France. And so I thought maybe you could like set it up for us, set the scene up for politics.
So in 1813, which is a time frame that we're going on, England was actually at war with Napoleon, and they had been for quite some time. They were fighting over in the peninsula, and they were also fighting over in Europe. But England's main contribution was not ground troops. Their main contribution was money, funds. They ended up supplying their allies over 66 million pounds, which is huge because they didn't have the ground troops like Russia did or all the other allies. In addition, they also had the world's greatest navy, and they kept the channel from being penetrated and coming over to England. But also during that time of fighting Napoleon, there was also a war of 1812 over in America. But if you read the history books over in England, they consider this America's more of a skirmish. They didn't consider the real war. The real war was fighting against Napoleon. So they considered it more of a nuisance war, the Second Revolutionary War, but they considered it a skirmish.
Okay, so they were way more focused on what was going on in France.
Yes, and had been for quite some time. Because America in 1812 decided they wanted to, among other things, wanted to take over Canada. Mm-hmm. And that kind of what brought the English back over to fight them. And they wanted just to embarrass the Americans with their navy. Over in Europe, they'd been fighting, and at this point they hadn't turned the war yet. In 1814 is when they got Waterloo, when they won that war. And that's when the turn of the war started, the shift started going in their favor, obviously.
Right. And so this book sets up that it's in 1813, and the spies that are coming in are actually trying to fix a vote in Parliament. Mm-hmm. And that is because they want more money, right?
Right.
Okay.
So basically, the imposters, there are a few people, the French spies, what their end game is, their total goal is they're trying to cause chaos in Britain. The war itself was not popular among the people. No one wanted to fight in the military. So most of the times what they did was they would go into the rookeries, which were the slums, which is what they were called, and they would just take people. They would take criminals. They would take people off the streets. They would just randomly grab people to go fight in the war. So their actual ground troops were not, some of them were good soldiers, infantry soldiers, but a lot of them were just basically filler spots. But when they took these people out of the slums, they took away their source of income for their families. So the war was very unpopular for the middle classes and below. It was just very unpopular. The upper class didn't like the war, obviously because they didn't want Napoleon to invade them, but they didn't like it because they couldn't get their French silk and all the other things that they were used to, the tea, and they had to be smuggled in. But the lower class people were the one that faced the brunt of this war.
You know what? That makes so much now more sense for me. Why the taking of people was such a thing. Why mm-hmm. they were so worried about it. And I love that these books set me there because I really have never read books about this time period, which is why I'm so unfamiliar, in different countries, but not at this. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how little I knew about this time period. And so I'm so happy that it intrigued you enough that you were writing a series about it. So, it was a very interesting time.
And it's so interesting because Parliament, what they did is they had the House of the Lords and House of Commons in Parliament. Mm-hmm. The House of the Lords, during the season, so that was during kind of the spring, summer months, that's when Parliament was in session. And all the earls from all over England, sometimes Scotland and everywhere, they would travel to London for the season. A lot of these earls and lords and, dukes and viscounts and stuff, they weren't social. They lived out their life in the country home, but they were lured into town to vote in Parliament because their daughter needed to go to a ball and to meet a husband and everything. So there were a lot of reclusive lords that people hadn't seen for years showing up for seasons.
And so is that why they had these like balls during this time? Because every okay, now it's all see. I'm so happy that I asked you instead of reading.
Because also in London, it smelled. It reeked. And that's the thing that actually in my fifth book that I'm working on right now, the rivers there, they were pretty much had slime coated on top of them, almost as thick as molasses. And that was the drinking water available to the people, not the wealthy, but to the everyday people, which is why disease always broke out. And the people didn't take baths. I mean, it smelled. So in the wealthier parts that were separated, sometimes just by streets, it was clean and presentable. And then you had this foul smelling industrial blackened buildings, and the whole town reeked. And so that's the reason why most lords and ladies spent time in their country homes and only coming in for the season and then back out.
Interesting. Yeah, you get a little sense of that if you ever watched Victoria on.
Yes.
Because you see like where her, some of her servants go to, and I was like, wow, did they really look like they were dark? And they were small, and they were, no wonder they bred disease. Like, it was.
It was the slums, and like I said, they were called rookeries as well, kind of like a nickname in the 18th, 19th century. They were just, a better term is just hell. Charles Dickens wrote about the buildings that were so close together that were crumbling in on themselves. Abandoned buildings that looked abandoned actually were housing families, sometimes each family per room, sometimes they shared. Mold was there. Rats would just scurry up and down the walls unassisted. Waste would go through. And the reason why I know so much about this is because I'm researching. But, it was just, there was waste. And people used to also, if you traveled to Europe, back in the older days, they would just take their chamber pots and their bowls, and they would just toss them in the street. Same with their everything. So it just smelled. There were no sanitation.
Down the street in those big dresses and it just doesn't.
Yes. Yeah. It was it was just a hard time, especially to be poor. So if I wanted to live during that time, I would want to be a rich heiress, is what I would like.
Not anywhere near there.
Yes.
Well, I loved Kate so much. I always say that with every one of your books because you focus on these female, characters, and I fall in love with them. And then I say they're my favorite, and then I'm going to say she's my favorite, but it's just because I just got done reading her story. But I want to give you one of your quotes that I loved so much. I always have quotes from your books. And this is pretty much in the beginning because we don't do spoilers. She says, you say about her, Kate, she would never allow another man to control her as Michel, and I'm going to say Michel, I think that's it for French, right? Yeah, her ex-husband. No, she would rather die. And that gives a part of her story away, is that she was abused. She was abused by her mom, and then she was abused by the man that they forced her to marry, and that she didn't want to marry. And I just love that because I was kind of in a marriage like that. I don't want to get into too much detail, but that control. I think as women, it's like I always had this fairy tale of being taken care of, and then there's that control, but then there's control. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like this fine line. It's between, being taken care of and then being controlled.
Okay? Yeah, exactly.
And, that's what I was thinking of when I read that, because she was controlled. Okay. And she was controlled so much she didn't even know how to have her own thoughts.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. She wasn't allowed to read because her mom didn't want her to turn out to be like Eliza. They had a blue stocking, which was kind of like a derogatory term back then. Also, they didn't, her husband didn't want her to have opinions, and he treated her so well, and he locked her away at the country home. And he preferred to take his mistresses to these social events, which my editor did slash out. She's like, let's not put Mint in that. But that's the type of person he was he didn't care for her.
Right. So it was very difficult for her to trust another man because she just didn't know how to think. She's learning through the book how to be her own person. And,
yes.
And she does.
She wanted to be like Eliza, but being strong and determined, but she just didn't know how. She didn't think it was possible for the most of her book. And then she had her own inner strength that you saw come out at the end.
Yes. And I love the ending, and I love how it kind of gives us what's going to happen, that it's going on. But
Yes.
it was like, it's like I always think, because I love a happy ending, love,
Hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
always the journey to the happy ending. Like,
Yes.
as long as you take me on that ride, and I loved reading about her. I love your writing. It's, I learned so much, and it's just, I don't know, it was so much fun. That's what I think about your books, is that they're just so much fun.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with the banter. I
Yes.
kind of relate how I would talk to other people, and like when Adrian, calls, obviously not that it's a huge spoiler, but calls Benedict Sunshine, and I just laughed because I thought that is how friends would talk to each other.
Yes.
They would, and so they have fun. They joke and they tease with each other, and
Yeah.
they also want to kill each other sometimes.
Right. 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 And you have the sister thing going.
Yes.
We find out more about their relationship and repairing their relationship, and that's what I also love, is that you're very character driven, and you can get in these characters, and you examine it. Every book goes into a deeper part of their character. Because you
Yes.
see Eliza, and it's totally different.
Well, and that's why everyone asks me, like, what's your favorite book? I'm like, I don't know. It must be the one that I'm writing, because Eliza has come so far from the first book,
Yeah.
and we don't see Hannah in the third or fourth, but she will be coming back in the fifth book because they're at the season. And they're just, their personalities have become stronger, and they've changed because they've fallen in love, and they're truly happy. And Eliza deals with book number 4. I think that might be my favorite, because it's book number 4 and the characters are back and they're trying to fight against the French, invasion and everything. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and people do change. If she were to stay the same as she was way back in, here, that wouldn't be very much fun, would it? I mean, she has to grow up, and she has to become, the big sister, even though she's not there because they're twins. But she kind of acts like the big sister, doesn't she?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's twins, but yeah,
Yeah.
she does. She does
on
act like the bigger sister, but she's also had more experience. She had to grow up a lot faster.
Right. So, but okay. So, how many do you have, like, in your head? Like, if you're on the 4th, like.
So book number 4 will end the French story arc. So we'll end this particular story arc.
Okay.
I'm working on book number 5, which is actually about Lady Martha. And she, if you know Martha, she her father was a vicar, and he inherited a title from his brother, and he becomes an earl, thus making her Lady Martha. And so we find out about Eliza's lady's maid, but who is also her good friend.
Right.
We start learning, and it's a fine line between, because obviously her past is in white slavery. So right now there's that fine line of not giving away too much, but not also weakening the storyline by going over it, saying, "Oh yeah, you were abused for 5 years, not a big deal. Let's move on."
Right.
There is a fine line of dealing with that very deep emotional scarring. Her love interest you find in book number 4, which is Lady Rachel's cousin. Yes. So you start finding out about him. But it's just, and then I have the next book, there's the story of Josette. You meet her very briefly at the house.
Right.
And then the 7th story is the character you meet at the very, very end in the epilogue.
Right. That's what I was talking about, is like you can kind of see the setup for what's to come,
So you see her, so you see her later on. You also, the issues with her fingers, not to give away spoilers, is resolved in book number 5. So she is able to continue sewing.
Well, I can tell how much fun you're having writing this. And but it totally comes out in the book. I mean, when you find something that you can really just, like, do you look forward to, like, when you're going to have time, because you're a mom and your wife, and so when you're like, okay, I'm going to write, do you get, like, all excited?
I do.
Do you?
And sometimes when I'm writing, I think, oh, this is really good. And then other times I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come back and change this, because I was not schooled in writing, in literature. My background is in construction management in college.
Right.
So I sit down and I have a basic outline of what I want to do, and then I start writing. And then once I get through the rough draft, then I look at it again and then go back. I am a little stressed because I'm supposed to have book number 5 to my editor by June 1st, which seems like way far away.
Right.
But my first job is a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
So as soon as my kids get home, they want food. They want attention.
Dinner.
Yeah, dinner. I mean, my husband wants to talk to me when he gets home from work. I mean, so all these things happen but I love sitting down. I love writing because it's a fun outlet. For years, I had the story of Lady Eliza in my head. Like, just every time I would go walking, running, it would be in my head. And then when I wrote it down, I don't think about it anymore. And then the next story came into my head. And so it's a way of when I write it down, it's kind of like I can move on to another story. So I do really enjoy writing.
Wow. I know it so comes through. And like my kids, I still have one at home that I'm homeschooling. And he'll say like, he's like, how many interviews do you have today? What are you doing today? I'm like, reading. I got 3 interviews and I'm reading. Like, they are always so bored by my 18-year-old's like, what are you doing today? I'm like, reading.
Which is the dream. If I'm not writing, I'm reading. There's so many. My to be read pile is getting bigger and bigger.
I'm surrounded, sitting amongst all my books right now.
But I also have the problem, once I start reading a book, I can't stop.
Yeah.
So if I start reading a book and it draws me in, I can't start working on my own book until I know what happens in that book.
Right. I don't have that to deal with. I just have the interviews then. So it's like I'm always reading to the next interview and, setting up my books that I have to read. But I never get, like the kids always say, like, are you tired of reading yet? I'm like, I've been reading my whole life. Like, I'm tired of reading.
I feel the exact same way. Yes. My kids don't understand, but they're only 10, 12, and, 7. To them, reading's a nuisance.
Right. Someday.
Yeah.
They'll be reading your books someday,
Oh, they are completely unimpressed with me writing books. Right. Like, to them, it's like, okay, you're writing a book that's really annoying. I'd rather have you, I don't know, what would be, yesterday my son wanted watermelon to be cut. And I said, okay, give me 5 minutes. I'm updating my newsletter. Mom, I want my watermelon now. Now. And I'm like, give me 5 minutes. And he's like, you're just writing your book.
You're just writing. So, my goodness. Yeah. What are you thinking?
What are you doing? And so, yeah. I'm like, I'm writing my newsletter, which is super interesting.
I always say to my kids, like, if I interview, I'll be like, I interviewed, you should watch it on YouTube or something. And I heard one of them say to one of their friends, they're like, yeah, my mom does this YouTube thing. It's really boring. So I'm like, oh, he doesn't watch it. That's fine. It's okay.
One time I was doing a live Instagram video, like for an interview, and my son was watching TV and he was listening to it, and he went on to the Instagram and started asking questions. And they were actually somewhat like decent questions. And he's like, Mom, yeah, that was totally me. I just asked that. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you. That works.
That worked. Yeah.
Thank you.
Try to get them a little interested, but
yeah.
Well, it was so much fun to talk. I can't wait. Okay, so book 4 is going to be out when?
Book 4 is slotted to be out July 1st.
Yay, so we get to talk again very soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about book 4. Like, it's just going to be, it's so much fun because all the people are back. Yeah. Not the women, but all the, not Hannah or Kate. They show up in book 5 and so on. But all the men come back, the spies, and they come. And
well, you need to get me an advance copy, and then I'll release it on the release date, the video.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
That's what we'll do.
This time, for some reason, I ordered the copies from my publisher, and for whatever reason, it took like 2 weeks to get.
Yeah.
So I was able to send out like the ebook.
Yeah.
But the actual physical book, I got almost a week and a half late. And so some of my reviewers haven't even received the physical. Well, they've received the physical book now, but it took a while.
Yeah, just give me the ebook. Just get it to me, and I'll read it, and we'll get the interview done, and then we'll release it on the release date. And then that'll be a big push. So anyway, here is the first one. She's got the other 2. We will be giving books away, and all of Laura's links are going to be listed under here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we'll talk again soon, okay? And by that time, we'll have lots to talk about with the royal wedding, so... Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
I can't get out.
Oh.
You can exit out. Oh, my son will just edit this out.
Oh, okay.
Because it's
Perfect.
not letting me hang up. I don't know why.
So I need to send you... Oh, is it not done?
Yeah, just go ahead. We're not taping. I mean, we're taping, but he'll cut it out. So,
so I'll send you these 2 books.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think if I have your address. I might text you the address.
Yeah, I'll get you my address.
Okay. And I'll just send those off. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You just have to escape out because I can't because I'm taping and it'll just do something to it. I don't know.
Thank you so much. Okay. Have a great day. I didn't go back to writing until my kids get home.
Yay.
So,
bye.